How's your day going today? This is Why Is It Like That? And welcome to our podcast series that often begins with why questions based on the first principles thinking method. It aims to give you diverse perspectives on various life issues. So, to truly live life with us, let's dive into this episode. The sorrows of yesteryear are just today's jokes. That year, I was 12. I hid in a corner, sobbing uncontrollably because I had lost the bicycle my parents had saved up for so long to buy me. My hair was plastered wet, and I ran helplessly back and forth in the rain until my legs were numb, hoping to find the bike that had been in sight just 5 minutes before. My heart was filled with a mix of anger and fear. I was angry at others. How dare they steal my bike? Why didn't they pick the bike of the kid I hated in class? I was angry at myself for being careless and not looking after it. I was scared of being scolded, scared of my dad hitting me, scared of making my mom cry, scared of making my parents struggle even more to earn money. Searching in vain, I cried so loudly. I felt so miserable, like the sky was about to collapse. Yet today, as I retell it, I can only laugh. The feeling of pity for my hardworking parents is still there, a slight sting in my nose, but there's no more pain, anger, or fear. That year, I was 15. I hid in the bathroom and cried again. My best friend, whom I considered a part of myself, had spread rumors and badmouthed me to everyone in class. In the midst of the pain, I felt my heart constrict with each beat. It would have been easier to accept if the one spreading the rumors was someone they had hated all along. But the gossip people were talking about me came from the mouth of someone who had been by my side like a shadow. Oh, my chest ached, I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was shattering into tiny pieces. Why would someone so readily betray years of friendship just to get a little attention? I stopped eating, even stopped studying. I had no spirit to do anything. Sadness enveloped me completely. Yet today, as I retell it, I can only laugh. Since that day, we haven't been in touch. To be honest, I really wanted to ask my friend why they did that to me back then, but in the end, I chose to let it go. There was no need for explanations. The raging storm that surged in my heart that year has long since subsided. Now, within me, there's a calm lake. Remembering it is like a breeze rippling the surface of the water, and that's all. That year, I was 17. Every night, I cried because I couldn't find common ground with my parents. Every time I opened my mouth, I would be scolded, facing terrible criticism from the people I loved, which deeply crushed me. More than once, I wanted to run away from home to disappear from this life. That year, I studied while wiping away tears. My papers were stained with smudged black ink. I tried so hard, staying up all night, frantically cramming, but my grades remained dismal. Then my parents would scold me, making me feel stupid, ignorant, utterly disappointed. I felt like every path led to a dead end. I was miserable, having tried so hard but unable to achieve anything. My efforts felt like throwing salt into the sea without recognition or understanding from my parents. I felt like an outsider in my own home, like someone who had been discarded. Yet today, as I retell it, I can only laugh. Back then, I studied like crazy, cramming for exams like a beast, but in the end, I was still at the bottom of the class, and everyone around me burst into laughter. Later, when my mom and I happened to reminisce about it, she also laughed heartily. She remembered how I would argue back for every word she said. She knew studying was stressful, but seeing my scowling face back then made her blood boil. She admitted that after every scolding, she felt sorry, but whenever she saw my stubbornness, it was just a reflex to scold me a few times to feel relieved. Her daughter just scratched her head, not understanding why she was so moody back then. That year, I was also 17. I knew what it felt like to be infatuated, to secretly harbor feelings and yearn for someone. When they smiled, my heart brightened like sunshine. When they were down, my heart sank to an indescribably low note. Because I had let my emotions depend on their mood, the rejection message they sent me that night wounded me deeply, like a gash tearing through flesh. I covered myself with a blanket, not daring to cry out loud. I blamed myself, blaming my ugly face, blaming my useless, untalented self, blaming myself for not being worthy of them. I cried until both my eyes were swollen red, constantly wondering why they didn't choose me. Yet today, as I retell it, I can only laugh. Childhood love, looking back, is rather sweet. First love, of course, is intense and painful. But at least the me of that year dared to express myself, even if my reaction to the rejection back then was somewhat flawed. Still, it takes those old experiences to see and understand many things. Someone rejecting me, not choosing me, that's their decision. It's a rejection they made after long consideration, based on their views on love, their experiences, judgments, and their own perspective. Just because one person doesn't like me doesn't mean no one else in the world will. The broken heart made me sad, but today, that sadness no longer matters. It's true that no one can stay sad forever. My friend continued, "That year my mom passed away. I thought, this way in a few days I'll follow her too. Both my parents were gone, and the wealth my grandparents had accumulated wasn't much, not to mention the debts they had taken on for my schooling. At the funeral, I felt nothing. No sadness, no pain. All I could think about was, how can I just die right now?" But that evening, when I got home, I saw my grandmother hugging my little sister and crying. The smell of burnt soup wafted from downstairs. If I hadn't come home in time, there would have been a big fire. At that moment, I don't know if it was my grandmother's cries or the smell of burnt food that pulled me back. I couldn't die, couldn't just leave and abandon everyone else. But I felt my life was so tragic, so utterly tragic. I kept asking myself if anyone in the world could be more tragic than me, if there was a deeper bottom than this one. Something surged, a lump in my heart. If it weren't for my grandmother and my sister that day, perhaps I wouldn't be here now, reminiscing about the old days with you all. Some pains felt like they reached my limit, but they were nothing compared to countless other pains. Our group sat around, listening in silence. The atmosphere grew heavy. There was no more teasing or laughter as before. My friend quickly picked up the conversation again to change the mood. "It's a good thing, maybe thanks to that burnt soup, I snapped out of it, because my nose is allergic to strange smells." In fact, since graduating, she was the one we worried about the most in our group. With each of us having our own lives, new families, and busier jobs, it was hard to care for and spend as much time with each other as before. But thankfully, our friend is doing very well now. Our little friend used to love wearing bracelets, watches, and long-sleeve jackets. Those accessories weren't fashion statements, they were purposefully used to hide the cuts and scratches on her arms. But now, on her arms, there are only old scars, no new wounds. Now, she is surrounded not only by our love, but also by the sparkling love of her husband and her own little family. The sorrows of yesteryear are just today's jokes. Is it true that after we grow up, our pains start to shrink? Yes, but that's not the full explanation. There are many reasons from psychological and neuroscientific perspectives that explain this. Firstly, past pains or sorrows no longer seem as terrifying as before, perhaps because humans have undergone a process of brain development and emotional processing as they mature. The prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making, reasoning, and emotional control, has fully developed. This allows us to process and regulate emotions better, viewing past events from a different, less emotional perspective. Additionally, during this growth process, people have more experiences, encountering various challenges and pains. The diversity of these experiences gives us a broader, deeper view of life, helping us understand the layers of meaning behind our suffering. Therefore, when we weigh past and present pains, we are likely to just smile faintly. At the same time, the human mechanism gradually adapts and undergoes psychological recovery after trauma. This natural recovery process after injuries is called resilience. Over time, we learn to adapt to past hurts, turning them into lessons and experiences to live better. This process helps us look back at the past more calmly and reduces the feeling of pain. We can also consider a concept called contextualization, which is the brain's recognition of context and its ability to learn from experience. It might sound a bit complex, but you can simply understand it as, when we experience a lot of suffering, the brain automatically learns from that context and protects itself from harm if that context repeats. Not to mention, the human brain also naturally makes changes to memories and emotions. Memory is not a perfect replica of an event that happened. When we recall the past, memories can be altered over time, and especially, the emotions attached to that event gradually diminish. This makes past pains or sad stories feel lighter. Furthermore, another reason why the sorrows of yesteryear are just today's jokes is the shift in priorities. As we mature, our values and priorities in life also change. Things that once made us sad or hurt may no longer be important, and we tend to focus on other things. This makes past pains less influential on our current emotions. So, the pains of youth, the heartaches from when we were young, will no longer matter much. Saying this doesn't mean denying the sorrows we once had, but rather hoping you understand that when the storm passes, we won't remember how we overcame it, how we struggled to survive. We might not even be sure if the storm truly passed. But one thing is certain. When we emerge from the storm, we are no longer the same person who entered it. The storm sweeps away what you considered precious. You survived in the eye of the storm. You don't remember what you did. It was just instinct that helped you find shelter to survive. Deep within this body, there is a powerful will for you to live. And once you have truly overcome it, you are no longer the person you were days before. One day, sitting back and reflecting on what has passed, you can still smile and comfort yourself, realizing, that's what I was like. That is also when you have truly overcome your difficulties.